Hello. As some of you already know, my name is Jon Sermon, and let's get the joke out. I am a preacher called Sermon, just as if you were in school and your teacher was Mrs. Lesson. Let's have it out there and dealt with. My name's Jon Sermon. I'm a preacher. I lead two churches in Suffolk. I'm also wearing one of my African material shirts today, reflecting the fact that I lead a charity called Romans 1:11 Trust that works with Africa for mutual encouragement, especially with Uganda. And today I want to continue what I've been doing. I'm saying I'm put out almost daily short messages of encouragement, and I've got a real encouragement today that's come out of difficult circumstances. I want to remind myself as well, God is expert at bringing good out of bad situations. One of the times this is mentioned in the Bible, you'll remember Joseph of the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. When Joseph was betrayed by his brothers who were jealous of him, sold into slavery, into Egypt, ended up in prison, but then became a helper and deputy to the king of Egypt, Pharaoh. Eventually, because of a famine, his brothers came to Egypt who had food, looking for help, and he recognized them. They didn't recognize him. But when eventually he revealed his identity, that he was their brother they thought was dead, they were obviously very afraid that he, in this powerful position, deputy to the king, could take his revenge on them. And when he reassured them, he said, "You meant what you did for evil, but God used it for good." And in this coronavirus pandemic, we're finding circumstances again and again where stuff that seems for evil, God turns to good. We still have to struggle through all the awful circumstances. But today, it's a Sunday. We've been doing our virtual church on Zoom, as we do Sunday by Sunday. And many of you will be aware, because you use the tool and there's news reports all over the place, that Zoom has had major malfunctions today. And sadly, a lot of our people couldn't get in and couldn't join the worship. But those who did had a special time of connecting with God and with each other that was so worshipful. And then at the end, as we were chatting, as we were just about finishing, and several had been on websites and found out what was going on. We'd first experienced trouble getting people into the meeting, and many had to give up. And we'd also become aware that some had reported or had researched and were reporting there's major problems on Zoom today. And when we stopped to think at the end, it's a tool that was primarily designed, I believe, for business meetings when you're not physically together, for conference calling and so on. And so you would think the pressure on the capacity is the most Monday to Friday. But the upsurge we are having, not just in the UK, but across the world, of church and worship done in this virtual way, it was a Sunday morning that the system couldn't cope. And of course we were disappointed at that, and of course we are. But we were also encouraged that the number of people wanting to engage with worship on a Sunday morning was putting the Zoom system under pressure of inadequate capacity to cope. Praise God, He is raising people up to engage with Himself in ways that many have not before. And we are here in the churches to encourage you. And if you are one of those exploring faith in God, stick with it. And even draw encouragement from the fact that it was the church services today that were disrupted when the tool wasn't working. That is a sign of the growing spiritual hunger in our land and other lands. And that we who know God through Jesus Christ, we want to help others to come to know too, because the invitation, I mentioned it a few days ago, the passage from Revelation where Jesus says, I'm standing at the door and knocking. If you'll open the door of your heart, it means to me, he says, I'm going to come in. Open your hearts to Jesus Christ. God bless you.